So NBC News has an interesting report out that you're really going to get a kick out of. Take a look. The Trump administration is launching a global campaign to end the criminalization of homosexuality in dozens of nations where it's still illegal to be gay, U.S. official tells NBC News, a bid aimed in part at denouncing Iran over its human rights record. All right, pause. There was always going to be a catch to this. That's the catch. Now, we're going to go into more detail about this in a second. I'll read you some more of the article. But just know that today an article came out where Trump was asked about his effort to decriminalize homosexuality around the world. And he was like, wait, what? I don't know what you're talking about. So he wasn't even up to date with the new propaganda that his administration is trying to use in order to do regime change in Iran. By the way, make no mistake about it. That's exactly what this is about. Again, I'll give you more information that shows you that in a second. But suffice to say, the idea of, hey, should we decriminalize homosexuality around the world? Yes, of course we should. Not only that, gay marriage should be legal in every country. So I'm 100% on board with that. But how do you get to that point? And then also, how are they going to enforce this? That's the question. And again, let me give you more on that. So they continue. U.S. Ambassador to Germany Richard Grenell, the highest profile openly gay person in the Trump administration, is leading the effort, which kicks off Tuesday evening in Berlin. The U.S. Embassy is flying in LGBT activists from across Europe for a strategy dinner to plan to push for decriminalization in places that still outlaw homosexuality, mostly concentrated in the Middle East, Africa, and the Caribbean. It is concerning that in the 21st century, some 70 countries continue to have laws that criminalize LGBT status or conduct, said a U.S. official involved in organizing the event. Narrowly focused on criminalization rather than broader LGBT issues like same-sex marriage, the campaign was conceived partly in response to the recent reported execution by hanging of a young gay man in Iran, the Trump administration's top geopolitical foe. Grenell, as Trump's envoy to Germany, has been an outspoken Iran critic and has aggressively pressed European nations to abandon the 2015 nuclear deal and reimpose sanctions. But while the Trump administration has had some success in pressuring Iran through stepped-up U.S. penalties, efforts to bring the Europeans along have thus far largely fallen flat. Reframing the conversation on Iran around a human rights issue that enjoys broad support in Europe could help the United States and Europe reach a point of agreement on Iran. Grenell called the hanging a wake-up call for anyone who supports basic human rights. In Bild, a leading German newspaper this month. Okay, so 72 nations still criminalize homosexuality. In 8 nations, it's punishable by death. On that list, it includes United Arab Emirates, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. U.S. allies. Even though we're at war with Afghanistan, we're allied with the government against the Taliban. Long story. So, in Egypt, Trump has heaped praise on Sisi, who's the dictator of Egypt. Gay relations aren't illegal, but the morality police are used aggressively to target gay people. So, there are countless examples of nations that are our allies that effectively criminalize homosexuality. They're launching this now. Think about it. What makes the most sense? Oh, we're going to launch this effort to decriminalize homosexuality the world over. Great, that's wonderful. So step one would be what? I'll tell you what I would do. Oh, we're going to cut off all aid to our allied governments that criminalize homosexuality unless and until they decriminalize it. Simple. And that, by the way, might actually work. That might work. Oh, however much we give. I don't know how much we give. Say we give $2 billion a year or something to Pakistan. Sorry, you're not getting $2 billion. You're getting donut unless and until you decriminalize homosexuality. You know what will happen? Very quickly. They'll say, it's still illegal on the books, but we're not going to enforce it. There will be a movement in the right direction if you do that. So, yet again, it goes back to the Chomsky quote, we are responsible for what we do. So when we arm Saudi Arabia, we arm Israel, we arm and back and prop up the Pakistani government, okay, we can do something about that. Their harms are partly on us by extension because we prop them up. So we can stop that. You know what we can't do anything about? The Iranian government. They're not our ally. We don't fund them. So what are we going to do about it? How are you going to make Iran decriminalize homosexuality? Now, should they do that? Of course they should do that. But how do we make them do that? Regime change. So, and listen, that's why, as part of this effort, they're like, oh, we're totally against the Iran deal. Exactly. So you're using the issue of gay rights cynically to try to do regime change in governments that are not playing ball with U.S. interests. That's what this is. So, and there's a reason why I'm covering this story. It shows you the cynical motives, and it shows you the playbook for how to try to build consensus among good people. By the same token, in 2002, with the buildup of the Iraq War, it was framed as, you're a monster if you don't want to topple this guy because he's a fucking evil dictator, genocidal maniac, and obviously you have to be against him. And, you know, it's easy to fall for propaganda like that because you think, well, what? I'm not a heartless asshole. I have to be in favor of this. But there's always ulterior motives, and you have to look at what those power centers' ulterior motives are before you really make a decision. So I 100% support decriminalizing homosexuality around the world. Question is, how do we get to that point? And what they're trying to do here is not really even get to that point. They don't care about it. They're not even going to put pressure on our allied governments. They're going to use this specifically to try to force regime change in countries that are not our allies and don't play ball. So now you know what's really going on here. Spread the word.